Namaste and welcome to Paladiva, Episode 3. And that was the beautiful scenery of Bucharest in the southern France. And I'd like to welcome you today to talk about a subject that is very, very exciting, fascinating and extraordinary. This is episode 3, and I hope by the end of it you'll find it worthwhile. Please like, please share, and if you can, please donate to this channel. All the links are available in the description. I was a bit sad that episode 2 didn't get many views. I can understand that the subject of community might be not that appealing to everyone. But I do find it of great importance for the future of humanity. So if you haven't had a chance, please do go and listen. I also wanted to stress that it's not so much myself with the information. I'm only the guide, and I would like to refer you to professionals, serious researchers, academics that I have listened to, and through my intuition, through my knowledge, through my wisdom, you could say I've screened them so that you don't listen to any crap. There is a lot of rubbish out there on the internet, a lot of people jumping on bandwagons and so on, and using information that, let's say, is skeptical and woo-woo, to say the least. I would just like to let you know that the references I'm using for today's subject are well researched, and I trust the things that these people say. So if you want some information, please use these guys and lady for your future reference. It's very fascinating and of great importance. The subject I'm talking about is UFOs. I know, a subject that divides a lot of people. Nobody really knows what to make of them. Are they real? Are they not real? Is it just Hollywood? Is it just fantasy? Well, whether or not you have seen a UFO, or you've seen lights in the sky, or you haven't seen them, to me, they're real. And perhaps with the links that I'm providing, you can then go and make your own mind up. I'm not here to change anybody's minds. I'm just here to relay information and make sure that you get a good idea of what is going on in this world. And this subject is a very important subject, one that has been ignored for decades. It gets brief mentions here and there, but mostly gets covered in Hollywood movies. Now, why would they cover it in Hollywood movies? Because I do believe that there is a molding, a programming of the mind of people to have a certain interpretation or a certain perception that will make you act, feel, behave according to what the agenda is. And there is an agenda. Now, UFOs, for those of you who are not familiar with the expression, it's an unidentified flying object. It has been renamed, the phenomenon has been renamed by the US government by the assistance of Hillary Clinton when she thought she was going to get into power, and she said she would release certain files on the UFO, but she didn't get in. She lost out to Trump, but she named them UAPs. UAPs stand for Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, but for the sake of this conversation I will call them UFOs. Now, the UFO phenomenon really started in this modern world in the early 40s, towards the end of the Second World War. US fighters were crossing Europe, and they spotted a whole fleet of these unidentified flying objects, and they were named Foo Fighters. They didn't have a name for them, that was their nickname. Ever since then, there has been a major cover-up. Now, I don't know if you've heard about the Roswell incident. It happened in New Mexico in America, where there was a supposed crash. I do believe it was two objects had crashed, and the material and possibly bodies were retrieved. The information came out the next day in the newspaper, and it was admitted that something had crashed there. However, in the days that followed, it was all covered up, and it was claimed that they were weather balloons. Since that day onwards, any claims of UFOs or crashes or whatever has been dismissed by the US government and its departments, claiming it's weather balloons or swamp gas or just satellites or a natural phenomenon. But for many who have had actual contact, have seen these objects, pilots of airlines, captains of reputable reputation, have witnessed these objects. Now, the people I'm going to reference in the description box, which will give you a much greater understanding and a deeper knowledge, are Richard Dolan. When I first encountered Richard, it was about 10 or 12 years ago. I thought it was a bit of a geek, but he's a historian and a very, very good researcher. He speaks very, very clearly, and the evidence that he has gathered is irrefutable. The other person I'd like to mention of great standing is Dr. Stephen Greer. Now, Dr. Stephen Greer has attempted for the last few decades to disclose the UFO phenomenon. He has reached the highest levels of government and actually briefed them, even presidents. And they seem to take on board what he says. But as it stands, the UFO phenomenon, when it comes to the government, there is an agenda. The actual retrieval of these crashed aircraft, I believe, allowed for back engineering of these craft, which also allowed for the development of craft that could be visible in our skies, and we may actually have the technology now that allows us to fly at incredible speeds, and it does not use conventional power systems or fossil fuels or anything that we have traditionally been using. And this technology, I do believe, has been kept secret because it is probably a free energy, a form of energy which is using electromagnetism or zero-point energy. But this engineering stuff is covered in the links by the people that I'm referring you to. The other person that I'm going to refer you to is Moulton Howe. She focused a lot in the 70s and 80s on abductions and cattle animal mutilations that were supposedly done by craft that have extracted animals and people and put them through some form of experiment and then returned them. This is a slightly different subject to the UFO, however they are interlinked, and I find them to be of great importance. And possibly another link I will send you is the Dark Journalist. Now, the Dark Journalist is a deep researcher and is very, very knowledgeable, and he really does explain things and goes very, very deep. And I strongly suggest you listen to Dark Journalist. He broadcasts once a week, or sometimes twice a week, and he is highly intelligent and, as far as I can tell, very trustworthy. Now, the problem about UFOs is, we wonder, where do they come from? Who could they be? What are they? It seems implausible that a contraption, a spacecraft, could travel from the nearest solar system, which is hundreds of thousands of light years away, that it would be physically impossible. Now, this is certainly the case, but however, should you come to an understanding that this space-time phenomenon, if you look into it, you'll find that there are possibilities of travel through wormholes and other forms of dimensional travel, I would say. Now, we exist here in this reality, in the third dimension. There are higher dimensions, which I do believe there is existence of beings. They will not function in the same way, physically function in the same way that we do in the third dimension, but that does not mean that they do not exist in the higher dimensions, say for example the lower fourth dimension, or even into the fifth dimension and higher. But I do believe that possibly these craft, as they appear, they sometimes appear, pop like into the sky, hang around for a while, hover, whatever, move around, and then suddenly, boop, they've disappeared. Now, it isn't the case of just they go invisible, although they may have some kind of cloaking possibility. I think it's more of a case of they possibly exit into a higher dimension. There is also talk, and it's a strong possibility, that they are actually here and have been here for quite a while. There's also cases of what's called USOs, which is unidentified submersible objects, which have been witnessed by countless US Navy and other Navy, as they see an object and plummets and goes down straight into the ocean without creating hardly a splash, and then just zooms down through the sea and underwater. There could be access to this planet underwater, and there could even be an existence of civilization or beings within the earth. But that subject I'll save for another day. Now, as far as the purpose of the presence of the UFOs, it is very hard to pin down. Many people, researchers, have tried to figure out what is their purpose, but it seems that they have been coming to this planet for thousands of years. The historical records and old paintings and old carvings and old scriptures, even in the Bible, mention of visitors, other beings that have come here, and their presence has been recorded through history, right into ancient history, all the way back to the cuneiform tablets of the Sumerians, which goes back about 7,500 years, and they were recording events that happened up to 250,000 years before them. So this is not a new phenomenon, but in recent times it is has been a lot more activity, a lot more sightings, and we come to wonder why. The biggest rash of sightings that was kicked off was after the bombing of the dropping of the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It is understood that 2 days after the bombings, UFOs were sighted observing the scene. Now, I've also read and understood that there have been occasions where UFOs have appeared around US Air Force bases and missile bases, and that their presence has in fact switched off, made unusable certain aircraft flying to link up with these UFOs. Instrument panels have gone flat. Missiles have actually been deactivated, and commanders of bases have been utterly confused and distressed, and have wondered what is going on. I shan't keep going for too long, because my personal knowledge, my own encounters with UFOs have only been lights in the night sky, blinking, moving, going up, going down at high rates of speed. But I have personally never had an encounter with a spaceship as such. But I do strongly urge everyone to listen to the links that I have enclosed in the description. For me, this is a very, very important point, because it has been said that there is a strong possibility that in the next couple of years, next year, maybe a few years, that the threat of an alien invasion could be used upon the population of this planet. In the effort to globalize the world and have governments centralized and run by, well, we'll call them the elite, call them the rich, the powerful, the ones who want to control this planet and its population under the guise of for our own good, could ultimately use the threat of alien invasion to lock down and protect the world. And it would be a threat that would threaten the whole world at once, and you could understand that the whole world would have to unite in the defense of the planet, should there be such a threat. Now, such a threat could easily be manufactured. There is such advanced technology that can produce holographic images. Perhaps I'll even put in a link for the one holographic image that I thought was very realistic, and you can see how that could be used to terrify the public. That also takes me back to why there have been so many movies about aliens, and how they've always made them out to be the bad guys, here to destroy. You know, movies like Independence Day and Alien and others. Never is there movies regarding good aliens who come to this earth to make peace and to introduce us to other life in other planets or other dimensions. So we live with this thing called the Fermi paradox, which is the paradox which says, if we are not alone, why have we not been contacted? This is another question that keeps getting asked, and again, the people who I'm introducing you to discuss this at length. But perhaps it's like what they do in Star Trek, where you cannot affect a planet's development. It has to develop of its own free will. To intervene in the progression of a people in their natural evolutionary state could have dire, serious consequences, and perhaps that the evolution has to happen of its own accord, naturally. This could be the reason. I'm not certain about that, but I get a feeling that we are being left alone so that we may discover in our own time what is what. I do not want to be a fearmonger, and this idea of a possible threat is a matter of last resort. This has been spoken about, the threat NASA and JPL, which is Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which was headed up by top scientists, and they, in particular one, who was actually a Nazi scientist who was brought over with many of the other top Nazis who were involved in jet propulsion and the rockets and advanced systems. They were brought over after the war because of their knowledge and their abilities. They were brought over in something called Operation Paperclip straight after the war. The top scientists went to the States and some went to Russia. And it was there that Wernher von Braun became a top US scientist and headed up the development of NASA. Now, I won't tell you the whole story, but it was on his deathbed, or near to dying, that he did say to his personal secretary that amongst the whole list of objectives of globalization, whether it be the pandemic or other events like 9/11, these events would be used for a final attempt or final solution in taking control of this world. And the very final ruse, false flag, whatever you might call it, was the possible alien invasion. Even Ronald Reagan in I think it was 1984 or so, at the United Nations, spoke about this subject and was even considering joining forces with Russia and the rest of the world to protect this world. It was with this speech that many people were surprised and took notice, but nobody has really ever followed up on it. And I think today it is high time that everybody have a look into this subject. It is of great importance. The mainstream media will just woo-woo and rubbish it, but most recently there has been coverage by the mainstream media on something known as the Tic Tac UFOs, where the US Navy has come clean. They've given some footage of these white flying objects that are zipping around the sky much faster than any of the jet fighters could ever hope to achieve. They've put out the footage along with a group called To the Stars Academy, which was headed by the Louis Elizondo, ex-CIA, but once ex-CIA, always CIA, and the singer from a rock band, Tom DeLonge. He sang with a band called Blink 182, and they were determined to, they say, to bring the truth of the UFO phenomenon to the public, and they released this footage of the Tic Tac UFOs in, I think it was 2019, and it did make the newspapers and some mainstream TV broadcasts, but these Tic Tacs are nothing like all the stuff that has been going on over the decades, and it's all well recorded. This 2019 footage actually came out in 2004 on YouTube, but nobody took it seriously. It was filmed by the US Navy and was dropped on YouTube by a user, but it wasn't until 2019 that they decided to officially release it 15 years later. And now, most recently, a hearing has been held in Congress, so there actually is some kind of realization, or not realization. They have expressed that this phenomenon is real, and that they are determined to look into it and find out what it's really all about, as if they don't know. They do know, yet there is an agenda, and they want to release details at their own time, with their own backstory to it, so that they can control the narrative. We need to be independent thinkers And we need to come to realize that should a threat ever come upon us, that perhaps it is not real and that it has been manufactured. This could be the case, but I wanted everyone to do their own research by following the links that I provided, and I find this to be of ultimate importance. Okay, I will leave you there. I kindly ask for some help to support this channel. I am currently in the south of France, in the countryside. I don't have a job. This is my only form of income, so I humbly ask you to please support this channel through PayPal, and it's in the link in the description. Should you not have PayPal, please send me an email and we can find another way